I never really wanted to be a doctor. That might sound ungrateful since medicine is a respected job that many people dream about. But for me, it felt like a shiny cage, a future my parents chose for me that slowly crushed what I truly loved. My name is Amy Jackson, and for the last 7 years, I've been living two lives. To my parents, I'm Dr. Jackson, the perfect daughter who followed their plan. But in the art world, I'm known as Angela Rayner, a famous modern artist in Cleveland whose paintings sell for millions. Neither world knows about the other. This strange double life hit me hard today. I was standing inside the newly updated section of General Hospital of Athens G. Ganymedes, the same hospital where my parents have worked as top surgeons for 31 years. They were celebrating a new Healing Through Art program. And right there, in the center of the hospital lobby, was one of my newest paintings, a giant, colorful canvas full of life and energy. It had been sold anonymously through my gallery for $4 million. My mom stood next to me, looking at it closely like she was examining a patient. "I don't understand this modern art," she said, frowning. $4 million for messy paint? The hospital board must be crazy. She had no idea that money would cover an entire year of medical care for kids in the hospital. Then my dad walked up, his white coat as clean as ever. "Well, at least it brings some color here," he said. "Though I wish they spent that money on better equipment." I stayed quiet, thinking about the night I made that painting. I had just finished a long 40-hour shift at their hospital. Instead of sleeping, I went straight to my hidden studio. All my emotions came out in that painting, the tiredness, the stress, and the pain of pretending to be someone I wasn't. But my real story starts 11 years ago, when I was 19. I told my parents I wanted to go to art school. My dad's voice shook the house. "Absolutely not," he shouted, making the glass dishes in the cabinet rattle. "No daughter of mine will waste her life painting pictures." I stood in our living room, holding the acceptance letter from a top art school in my shaking hands. These were the same hands that had secretly won 3 national art contests using a fake name. The same hands my parents wanted to train for surgery, not painting. "But Dad, I got a full scholarship," I said quietly. "They said I'm one of the best young artists they've seen in years." My mom sat stiffly on the leather couch, her face calm but cold, clearly disappointed. "Amy, we've spent everything getting you ready for medical school. Extra classes, summer programs, and CAT prep. This is not up for debate." "I never asked for those things," I said, my eyes starting to sting. "I never wanted." "Enough," my father said, cutting me off. "You think art will give you a real future? You think you can make a living drawing pictures? Look at your cousin Jerry, he tried being creative. Now he's 36 and still living at home." "But I'm good at it," I whispered. "Really good." My mom stood up and smoothed out her already perfect blouse. "You're good at science too. Top of your class in biology. Perfect MCAT score. That didn't happen by chance, Amy. That's your true path." I wanted to tell them about the paintings I had already sold online, about the gallery owner who wanted to represent me, about the feeling I got every time I picked up a paintbrush. But I knew none of it would matter to them. In their eyes, success meant becoming a doctor. Nothing else. I looked down at the acceptance letter, now wrinkled in my hand. I had a choice to make: go against my parents and maybe lose them forever, or find another way. That night, I made the decision that would shape the next 11 years of my life. I wrote to the art school and turned down their offer. I also accepted my spot at AUC School of Medicine, the same place where my parents had studied. But I didn't give up on my dream. I sent an email to the gallery owner, using my new artist name, Angela Rayner. I wrote, "I'll need to work in complete secrecy." I wrote back to the gallery owner, "No public appearances. No photos. No interviews. But I'll keep painting." He replied within hours, "Mystery can be great for marketing. Send me your next painting, and we'll get started." That's how my double life began. During the day, I was a full-time medical student learning everything about the human body with the same focus I once used to study color and shapes. At night, in a small apartment I rented under a fake name, I painted. My art slowly started getting attention from people around the world. The first year was the toughest. Medical school was just as hard as my parents said it would be. Some nights, I felt like I couldn't go on. But instead of giving up, I used that stress and tiredness in my art. My paintings became more powerful and emotional. Art critics called them raw, deep, and precise like surgery. If only they knew the truth. My first big sale happened in my second year of medical school. One painting sold for $300,000. I celebrated alone in my studio, quietly dancing around my canvases. I couldn't tell anyone. That same night, my parents called. They were proud because I had done really well on a pathology exam. I let them talk and smiled quietly, thinking how shocked they'd be if they knew their future doctor was also becoming a star in the art world. The next few years followed the same routine. I did great in medical school and earned the praise my parents always wanted. But in the art world, as Angela Rayner, I became a sensation. My paintings started selling for more and more money. The mystery about who I really was made people even more interested. Art collectors loved the story, a hidden artist who painted pure emotion without ever showing her face. One critic wrote, "Your technique is amazing. It's like you understand people in a clinical way, but you express it with pure beauty." I had to laugh. If only he knew how many hours I'd spent studying real human anatomy. By the time I finished medical school, I had made enough money from my art to buy a small private island. But of course, I couldn't tell my parents that. Instead, I accepted a medical residency at their hospital, Metropolitan General, just like they had always wanted. I kept my art studio across the city. The double life was exhausting. But something surprising happened. I found out that being a doctor actually made me a better artist, and being an artist made me a better doctor. My knowledge of the human body helped me paint with more detail, and my creative side helped me connect with patients in a way other doctor couldn't. Still, every time my parents proudly talked about their daughter the doctor, every time they said they were right to push me into medicine, I thought about the truth, about the painting that sold for millions under a name they didn't know. That changed this morning. They were standing in their own hospital, looking at one of my paintings, not knowing it was mine. They criticized it, not realizing it was worth millions, and that the money from that painting would help fund the children's care program they had been trying to grow for years. That's when I started to think, maybe it was time to stop hiding. Maybe Angela Rayner should finally be seen. But I didn't expect what happened next. Revealing my identity wasn't something I decided all at once. It happened slowly, like adding one brushstroke at a time to a painting. Each small moment pushed me closer. My father's comment about the hospital painting was just the last push. What he didn't know was that another one of my pieces was being shown that same night at the American Museum of Natural History. Still wearing my white doctor's coat, I stood in the hospital hallway and checked my phone. 5 missed calls from Tyler, my gallery owner. Then a message popped up on the screen. "Big problem with tonight's unveiling. Call me now." I rushed into an empty room, my heart pounding. "Tyler, what's going on?" I asked. His voice came through the phone, sounding tense. "The Cleveland Times is about to publish a story about Angela Rayner. Someone told them who you are. They say they know your real identity." My heart dropped. "That can't be true. Only you know." "It wasn't me," he said quickly. "But someone at the hospital figured it out. They noticed you're never on duty during Angela Rayner's big shows. They also said your art shows medical-level knowledge. They're connecting the dots. The article is going live tonight, right before the Met event." I sank into a chair, my legs shaking. 7 years of keeping my secret, now it was all falling apart. All because I hadn't been careful enough with my schedule. "Is there any way to stop it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I whispered, "Not unless you want to confirm or deny it on the record." "They're giving us 1 hour to respond," Tyler said. Through the small window of the consultation room, I saw my parents in the hallway. They were doing their rounds together like they had for the past 31 years. They looked so confident, so sure of who they were and the world they lived in. "I'll call you back," I told Tyler. For years, I had worked hard to keep my 2 lives separate, the hardworking doctor-daughter and the secret millionaire artist. But keeping those lives apart had become harder and harder. It was like trying to mix oil and water by force. Tiring. And impossible. My pager buzzed. An emergency in the children's ward. As I rushed down the hallway, my thoughts were spinning. If the article came out, everyone would know, my coworkers, my patients, and worst of all, my parents. The emergency was an allergic reaction, serious but treatable. I gave the little boy an epinephrine shot and stayed by his side until he calmed down. As he started breathing normally again, I noticed the white walls of the ward. They were plain and dull, nothing like the colorful painting now hanging in the hospital lobby. "Doctor," the boy's mother said, touching my arm gently. "Thank you." He was so scared, but you helped him feel safe. I looked at the boy holding his stuffed elephant, his eyes calm now. And in that moment, I realized something important. I was good at this. Not because my parents forced me into medicine, but because I had brought all of myself into it, including the part of me they tried to ignore, the artist. I stepped out and called Tyler back. "Don't fight the article," I said. "In fact, give them something better. Tell them Angela Rayner will be at the unveiling tonight. In person. For the first time ever." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Tyler asked, "Are you sure? This changes everything." "Everything's already changing," I said. "So, let it change on my terms." I ended the call and did something I had never done before. I asked for the night off. My supervisor was surprised, since I never changed my schedule. But with my excellent record, they agreed. Then I called my parents' office. "Mom, Dad, I need you to come to the American Museum of Natural History tonight. There's something you need to see." "The museum?" my mom said, confused. "Anna, we have dinner plans with the hospital board." "Please," I said firmly, cutting her off. "This is more important than dinner." There was a pause. Then my dad asked, "What time?" Back home, I opened the hidden closet where I kept my Angela Rayner clothes. Unlike my usual doctor outfits, these were full of color, style, and personality, each one chosen to speak without needing words. I picked a hand-painted silk dress, one I had made myself. Every brush stroke on it told a part of my story. As I got dressed, I thought about the painting that would be shown tonight. It wasn't like my other work. This one felt more personal, more honest. I called it Daughter of Medicine. In that painting, I tried to show my double life. At the center was a woman in a white doctor's coat, but her shadow on the wall was an artist at a canvas. Medical tools turned into paintbrushes. Hospital hallways were filled with bright colors. And across the whole painting ran the golden line of a heart monitor, steady and strong. I had painted it during a week of night shifts in the ICU. I added each layer in short, quiet moments between rounds. Sometimes, my tears of exhaustion mixed with the paint. That piece was my confession and my truth. And tonight, if the sale still happened after my identity reveal, it would sell for $4.5 million. My phone buzzed again. It was Tyler. "The Times agreed to wait until after the unveiling to publish the story," he said. "But social media is already going wild. You're trending." I looked at myself in the mirror, wearing the elegant dress of an artist, with my hospital ID still clipped to my bag out of habit. For the first time in years, I didn't feel torn between two lives. I felt whole. "Let them talk," I said calmly. The museum was packed when I arrived. The event had already been called the biggest art night of the season. People were even more excited because of the rumor Angela Rayner might finally show up. I spotted my parents near the entrance. They looked a little out of place in their work clothes, clearly unsure of what was going on. They hadn't seen me yet. Behind them, hidden under a velvet cover, was my painting, my truth. In less than an hour, everything in my life would change. Tyler came up beside me, looking nervous. "The press is everywhere," he whispered. "This is your last chance to walk away." I shook my head. "Not this time." The museum director walked up to the podium and tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "welcome to this special evening." I started walking through the crowd, slowly making my way toward my parents. My heart was racing, but I kept my steps steady. Years of dealing with emergencies at the hospital had taught me how to stay calm under pressure. The director kept speaking. Tonight, after 7 years of mystery, we are honored to reveal the identity of the artist known as Angela Rayner. Just as the velvet curtain started to fall, I reached my parents. Mom, Dad, I said softly. There's something I need to tell you. I need to tell you something, I said. My parents turned around. Their eyes widened as they looked at me. I looked so different from the serious doctor they were used to seeing. Behind them, the painting was now fully uncovered. The crowd gasped. I'm Angela Rayner. Those words hung in the air between us. Camera flashes lit up all around us. My mom's face turned pale. My dad's jaw tightened. In their eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before. Complete shock. Before they could speak, before they could even understand what I had just said, something unexpected happened. Something that would turn this special night into a moment that would change not just my life, but the entire art world. There was silence for just a few seconds, but it felt much longer. Then chaos began. Flashes went off like strobe lights. Reporters started shouting questions. The crowd pushed forward, trying to get closer to me, the artist who had just revealed her secret. But I couldn't look away from my parents. My mother, who always stayed calm, was the first to speak. This isn't possible, she whispered. You're a doctor. I'm both, I said quietly as the crowd pressed in around us. I've always been both. Then something else surprising happened. Dr. Henry Fonda, the head of the hospital board, came rushing through the crowd. He looked excited and a bit out of breath. The painting in the hospital lobby, he said. The one we showed this morning, that was you? I nodded. His next words made everything even more intense. We have to cancel the purchase. We can't accept a $4 million donation from someone who works at the hospital. The reporters went wild again. I could already hear the headlines forming. Doctor secretly donates millions to her own hospital. But then my father spoke, cutting through the noise. Donation, he said, turning to Dr. Fonda. What donation? Dr. Fonda looked confused. The money from the lobby painting, he said. It was returned to the hospital as an anonymous gift. It was meant for the children's care program. We thought it came from a rich supporter. His voice trailed off as he realized the truth. My father turned back to me, his face hard to read. How many paintings? He asked. How much? Tyler, my gallery owner, stepped forward like a true professional. 40 major pieces, he said. Total sales are close to $60 million. Angela Rayner is the most successful young artist in the world right now. My mother looked like she might faint. Not far from us, an art critic was almost jumping with excitement. The detail in her paintings, now it makes sense, he said. She paints with the eye of a surgeon. Actually, I said softly, I bring an artist's heart to my medicine. Then came the second surprise of the night. Dr. Rachel Jackson, my chief resident, stepped forward. Her eyes were shiny with unshed tears. The Jerry's case, she said. That impossible diagnosis you made last month. You said you noticed a pattern. I knew exactly what she meant. The young patient had strange symptoms that didn't seem to be connected. While other doctors focused only on test results, I noticed how the symptoms were spread out across his body. It reminded me of a rule from art, how opposite colors work together to show something hidden. That helped me figure out what others missed. You see things differently, Dr. Jackson said. That's why you're so good at diagnosing patients. You don't just look at symptoms, you see patterns like an artist. My mother, still shocked, finished the thought in a soft voice. Like an artist. For the first time since I told them the truth, I saw something change in her face. She was still surprised, but now there was also a small hint of understanding. My father stayed quiet. His hands were behind his back, the same pose he used when he was trying to stay calm and think clearly. The museum director was trying to quiet the crowd so the official unveiling of Daughter of Medicine could continue. But I barely heard him. My eyes were only on my father. He slowly walked toward the painting. He stood in front of it, the man who had never wanted me to be an artist, and studied every part like it was an X-ray. I held my breath. The anatomy, he said after a long pause, his voice rough. Every muscle, every detail, it's perfect. Yes, I said, stepping beside him. Because I learned it from you. He turned to me, and to my shock, there were tears in his eyes. I had never seen him cry before. All these years, he whispered, we thought we were teaching you to be a doctor. But you were becoming something more. My mother came closer and gently took my hand. The painting in the hospital, she said. You didn't just donate the money, you chose that spot in the lobby because it's where you both stop every morning, I finished. I wanted to bring some beauty into your day, even if you didn't know it was from me. Cameras were still flashing. Reporters were still shouting. But in that moment, it felt like just the three of us, finally seeing each other clearly. Tyler came over carefully. Anna, he said, the buyers are waiting. The bidding for Daughter of Medicine has already gone beyond the asking price. They want to know if you're still willing to sell. No, my father said firmly before I could answer, surprising everyone. He turned to the crowd, his voice strong and full of pride, the voice of a man who had led surgeries for 31 years. This painting belongs in the hospital, he said, right next to the other one. So everyone can see what happens when you stop forcing someone to choose between two parts of who they are. Dad, I whispered, my heart full. I started to say something. But it's worth millions. My dad smiled, a smile I had never seen before. It was part pride, part regret, and part amazement. So is my daughter, he said. The story spread across the world overnight. Doctor by day, millionaire artist by night became a headline everywhere. The art world was amazed by how my medical training shaped my painting style. The medical world was curious about how my artistic view helped me see things differently with patients. The hospital even started a new program that used art therapy in patient care, and I became the director. Now, my paintings hang in both hospitals and galleries. They connect two worlds I once thought had to stay apart. My parents are still getting used to everything. Sometimes, they look at me like I'm someone they don't fully know. But more and more, I see them looking at my work, both in medicine and in art, with new eyes. Last week, I saw my father standing in front of the painting in the hospital lobby during his rounds. He didn't turn around when he spoke. I was wrong, he said. When I told you art wasn't a real career, I was just trying to protect you from a hard life. But instead, I nearly kept you from becoming who you really are. I walked up and stood beside him. We were both in our white coats, looking at the swirls of color that had helped not only the hospital, but also our family begin to heal. You didn't stop me, I said gently. You taught me precision, discipline, and how to truly understand people. I just used those lessons on a bigger canvas than you expected. He laughed, really laughed, in a light, happy way I hadn't heard in years. Your mother's thinking about taking an art class, he said. She says she wants to understand your world better. It was always the same world, I said quietly. I just needed everyone else to see it. Now, when people ask me if I'm a doctor or an artist, I smile and tell them the truth. I'm someone who refuses to be limited by labels. My art heals in its own way. My medicine does too. Both come from the same place, a deep wish to make the world a little more beautiful and a little more whole. And my parents, they finally understand that success doesn't always wear a white coat. Sometimes, it wears colors and brushstrokes. The plaque under the painting in the hospital lobby now shows both my names, Dr. Anna Chen and Angela Rayner. A reminder that we are all more than the labels people give us. We just need the courage to show who we really are. And somewhere in my studio, no longer a secret, a fresh canvas waits for me. Because this isn't the end of my story. It's just the first time I'm signing it with my real name.